Black has an implanted device that shocks his heart back into normal rhythm when it goes haywire. And his lawyers say the device will go into overdrive when the state tries to kill him. Initially, the state called on a government-funded hospital to switch the gadget off just before the poison would start flowing into Byron Black's veins to try and avoid some trouble there. But the hospital refused. And the standoff continued until yesterday when the state Supreme Court said, implant or no implant, the execution is on. I'm joined now by Dr. Jonathan Groner, a pediatric trauma surgeon in Columbus, Ohio, and he's also written extensively on medical ethics and the role physicians play in capital punishment. So a perfect guest. Thanks for being with us here tonight, Doctor. It appears this execution is likely going to proceed on Tuesday, whether this killer's implanted defibrillator is switched off or on or not. Tell us what you know about how it will respond to the lethal injection. Is it going to go haywire as it's been reported?
Thanks for having me on your show. I would say yes. Almost everybody experiences ventricular fibrillation, where the heart goes haywire, as you say, when they're dying. And it will certainly deliver a shock. And these can be really powerful shocks. I mean, there are cases where people are like doing CPR and this thing fires and the person doing the CPR gets a shock. And I once had a patient tell me it's like a kick in the chest. So they're very powerful shocks. Whether they happen when he's still conscious or not is sort of hard to say. Someone with a normal heart would probably be comatose by the time the drugs start flowing, but he doesn't have a normal heart because people with normal hearts don't need defibrillators. I mean, he could have, his heart could go haywire, as you say, when he lies down on the gurney, when they're trying to do the IVs, when they're reading, his death sentence. So at any point, and if his heart doesn't restart, it keeps shocking and shocking until the battery finally dies. And also, it might make his body kind of spasm. So it could be kind of like the, dead fish out of water thing where he just keeps flopping around. Not sure about that, but people who've witnessed things say their bodies definitely contract in the upper body when the shock is delivered.
I mean, that is wild. And I'm wondering, because you have such expertise in this field, was the state within its rights to ask a hospital, help us with this execution? And is a hospital within its rights to say no, for that matter?
So I'm actually writing a book about this right now. It's called The Hippocratic Paradox, because here you have this paradox where people with medical expertise could, in theory, help with an execution, but they're ethically forbidden from doing so. So they're kind of stuck. I think doctors are within their rights to refuse to do something that will cause the execution of a patient. Whether the state's within its rights to ask the hospital to do that, I think is a legal matter that I can't say. But I do think that the execution might be one of the more grisly lethal injections we've seen, because of this thing is going to keep shocking him. And I do think that, just sort of existentially, to let someone die and restart their heart and have them die again would be sort of like having a noose and, tightening it on someone to kill them and then loosening it up and then tightening it again. So it seems very bizarre and should really be awful no matter what your position is on capital punishment. It just seems pretty crazy.
Yeah, and we understand that Byron Black's defense attorney said this to NewsNation, and this is in fact what they said. All we are asking is for the courts to stay this execution to prevent Byron Black from being tortured to death while the ICD repeatedly shocks his heart during the execution. This is a problem with a simple solution, but TDOC refuses to make arrangements to deactivate the device. So, are the words tortured to death an exaggeration? What's a physician's obligation to prevent torture to death if that's truly a possibility?
Right. So, again, you are putting your finger right on the whole issue of what my book is about, is that the people who are most able to make this execution happen in the least painful way are, of course, ethically forbidden from doing it. And that's like this Hippocratic paradox. So, that's why they're stuck. Turning off the device is not complicated. As a surgeon, I would operate on patients with these devices, and a cardiology specialist would come in and they have this device and this magnet and they put it on. It takes like a minute, but they're experts at it. And, landing a plane also takes like a minute too, because you have to know what you're doing. So it's not hard to turn it off. It's the whole ethical, moral boundary. I'm a pediatric surgeon. I've operated on thousands of babies. If physicians are involved in executions, do those families have less trust in me as a surgeon? I think that's an important question.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.